A lot of the Michael and Jan stuff, I feel like produced such memorable moments. And that was such an interesting relationship dynamic. And that, but before I move on to number one, which I believe you wrote and directed, I unpacked the Michael and Jan relationship. Like, when did you guys know that this could be not just a dynamic that can, because I feel like early on it kind of pushed the plot forward, but it really wasn't explored for comedy. When were you guys realize like these two together are just gold?
So, yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, there's some things we planned out and then some things that just worked and evolved, So we didn't have a master plan for them.
Yeah.
But as I look back on it, it was like, it really was an arc of this, like an arc of a failed relationship, and of like a relationship that was just doomed from the beginning, but you got it. You got what Jan got out of it. You got what Michael got out of it.
Yeah.
And how they both benefit from it and then found it like destructive. And with Jan, we just watched this. Eventually we realized what we were doing was in cocktails. When she did this talking head on the lawn, we realized, okay, this is a woman who's going to self-destruct.
Yeah.
And picking Michael was just part of it. She needed to blow up her life for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And he was part of it. And he was along the ride.
Well, and that kind of my number one favorite episode, and really the crux of a lot of the tension and humor is Jan and Michael, and that's money, which was a two-parter. I believe you wrote and directed that one, right?
Yeah.
In season 4.
Yeah, for me that was a super. That was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
When I look back on moments, like I said, I was, when I think back on them, I have more moments, attached to that episode than any other.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about so when I'm sure there's 1,000 ideas, but how did that, because it was a longer one too. It was one of those kind of two combined into one.
Yeah.
And it went in a lot of different, plot wise, it went in a lot of different directions, but it also, because it took Michael out into a new workplace, you got to see a new side of him with his coworkers, but he's still anchored at Dunder Mifflin. He's still Michael Scott, the boss. Tell me a little bit about writing that episode, because you get to see these new sides of the characters, but you also get to see the depths of the weird codependency of Jan and Michael.
Yeah, we started with a few ideas. It was, Michael has a night job. Michael goes broke. Michael runs away.
Which came back in the later season where he gets lost. Where he doesn't run away, but he gets lost. Yeah.
The wilderness. And then I had taken a trip to Italy and saw that they had this movement, which I think got a little bigger in this country afterwards, was farm stays and turning part of your farm into a B&B.
Yeah, agro-tourism, as Dwight calls it.
Yeah, agro-tourism. Yeah, exactly. So doing that to Dwight and having Jim and Pam stay there was all we needed. It didn't need more to that story. Just play those moments.
Yeah. And what's interesting, I feel like, out of all the episodes, Dwight, I can only imagine, was the hardest character to make people have. Michael, from the beginning that all of his kind of cringiness as a boss is really rooted in insecurity and loneliness, But Dwight, it just seems like Dwight's Dwight, and the kind of this weird guy. And how are you ever going to make people have empathy for him? Because he's Dwight, he's like Mr. Tough Guy. He doesn't have empathy for anyone. But when there's the scene where Jim and Pam and Cousin Mose, of course, are in the Harry Potter, Dwight is reading them Harry Potter. And, Dwight has obviously gone through this, difficult situation with Angela, and he's so alone. And, of course, Mose is fully enthralled in the reading, and Jim and Pam are kind of nestled together and hugging on the bed while Dwight reads. And there are a couple tender moments with Dwight there that you actually, I think for the first and maybe one of the only times until later in the like the finale is incredible, and you really do have an affection for Dwight there. But how did you decide, like, okay, we have to make people feel for Dwight?
I don't know if that was part of the decision. I mean, it wasn't like a goal.
Yeah.
When an actor becomes like more human, and you got to gives a lot to Rain, but when you show a fuller side, a fuller picture of a person, they become more empathetic. And you just when you understand what someone cares about, they become more empathetic. So part of going to the farm, it just seemed like the nature of it, we were gonna get more insight into Dwight.
Yeah, and also I love it too because it hints at in a hilarious way. It hints at some darkness with Cousin Mose, like when they kind of allude to Jim in the night terrors, and he's like, he has night terrors. Oh yes, ever since the storm. Like, was there any backstory there, or was it just like the more mystery we can make with Cousin Mose, the better?
Yeah, I don't know. It was just line by line writing jokes.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in a cafe in St. Petersburg, Russia. I was on vacation writing this episode, and wrote the Mose line. And I just have this memory of Mose running through the field when Jim and Pam
side by side to the car.
That moment of writing. I usually don't remember writing a lot, but that one I was laughing to myself in a cafe in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, that whole storyline was great. And then, the Michael getting the other job and learning the PowerPoint scene is great too, where he blows off PowerPoint. And you really have, I feel like that's one of the first times you really see like the evolution of Ryan from the temp to another character that ended up self-destructing. But how fun was it kind of writing, letting the tables turn on Michael and Ryan?
They still had a long way to go, right? We haven't done the Michael Scott Paper Company yet.
Yeah, so this was when Ryan had gone from, shortly before it was revealed that he was now he had gone from temp and he had applied for the corporate job. He came back and
Michael.
Yeah, he had instructed everyone to do PowerPoint training. And it was really one of the first times where Ryan was put in the position that Michael was, where he's the boss having to enforce things. And that PowerPoint scene, the other thing that's great about that scene is you have Ryan, who's obviously angry at Michael, and Michael trying to play off that he's learned PowerPoint. But the dialogue, and Toby has a big part of this, is arguing about the correct use of whom grammatically. Like, what a perfect moment. Did you have, did you study English in college? Like, where did hey, let's make a kind of a extended grammar joke come from?
Well, no, I knew how to use it, but it's funny. Everybody wanted me to cut that little section. Sometimes our scripts are too long, so we send it around to all the writers to circle different things.
Yeah.
And then a writer's assistant brings all those scripts together, and they compile all the circled things and give you a thing. So when I got to that page, I saw every writer had circled this, just like cut it. But no, the idea was just like, okay, bring these two characters into a moment of great tension, and then do something really, really mundane.
Yeah. It worked though. It totally worked. That episode also contains what I consider in the top 3 lines of the entire series, which is even just thinking about it makes you laugh, where Michael, he's cutting up his credit cards and he walks into the office and he just shouts, "I declare bankruptcy." It was, did you know when you wrote that joke, like, oh man, this is going to go down as an all-timer?
I don't know if I wrote that joke specifically. I can't remember, because some of them, sometimes you have a joke and then it's like we organize a whole thing to get to it.
Yeah.
I can never remember what I wrote and what other people. Sometimes I remember if other people wrote it, but But, you know, we kind of knew him coming and not knowing how to declare bankruptcy. He thought he could just declare it.
Yeah. Even however many years later, it's still like, of course Michael Scott thinks that's what it is. You know? It's like the other time where Kevin gets his cancer results and it's negative, and Michael just rips off his homemade Live Strong bracelets and hugs him just because he has a fundamental misunderstanding of something that everyone else just intuitively knows, you know?
Yeah.
The other, from a director standpoint, when I watch this episode, there's one moment with Jan where I feel like if I had to distill Jan into like a single moment of self-awareness where you get like, okay, she knows, it's when she comes to pick up Michael from his night job in the Porsche. And she's walking out. She goes, "You drive. I've had too much wine." And she stares right at the camera and like, "Don't you judge me. Don't you dare judge me." That was Jan. That was the entirety of Jan. You know, the Porsche, I didn't go to yoga. I drove here after I drank too much wine. It's like the ambition and the self-destruction all in the course of about 4 seconds. What a hilarious moment to have her look at the camera.
That thanks a lot. Yeah, I learned a lot about directing from that episode.